The Pacific Ocean thundered with explosions. The night sky flashed red as U.S. Navy destroyers locked onto dozens of fast boats cutting through the waves. Each boat carried armed men, trained killers of the world's deadliest cartel. Within minutes, 2,000 U.S. troops were drawn into a battle no one expected. Radios screamed, engines roared, and the sea turned into fire. We go. This is the story of how it all unfolded. 3 hours that tested America's power and resolve. Stay till the end to learn how the U.S. Navy ended a war before it truly began. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon for more real military stories. It started weeks before that night in the Pacific. Quetta, intelligence units at the U.S. Southern Command picked up strange signals along the coast of Mexico. Encrypted radio traffic. Satellite images showing heavily armed convoys moving toward hidden ports. The name behind it all? Los Hombres, known as the world's deadliest cartel. Los Hombres were not a street gang. They were a private army minus 25,000 strong. They owned armored trucks, surface-to-air missiles, fast boats, and even homemade submarines. Their reach stretched from South America to the Gulf of California. They smuggled weapons, oil, and fentanyl, worth billions each year. But this time, they crossed a line. In early May, 3 American engineers working for a defense contractor vanished in Sonora, Mexico. The cartel claimed responsibility. Their message was simple: stay out of our waters. It's the Pacific route to ship missiles to other criminal networks. That meant danger not just to Mexico, but to every U.S. ally in the region. Washington gave the order. The Operation Iron Tide. The mission objective: rescue the hostages, destroy cartel naval assets, and capture or eliminate their top commander. OLL, Viento Cardenas, a man responsible for thousands of deaths. 2,000 U.S. troops were mobilized. The force included Marines from the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit, SEAL Team 6, and naval support from the USS Somerset, USS Portland, and USS Bunker Hill. Overhead, MQ-9 Reaper drones circled silently, watching every move on the ground. At the heart of the plan was speed. The entire mission had to be done in under 3 hours. If it dragged longer, the cartel could call for reinforcements from the mainland or destroy evidence. Every minute counted. In the days leading up to the assault, weather patterns shifted. The Pacific grew rough, with unpredictable tides. Marines trained for silent insertions using combat rubber raiding craft. Small, fast boats designed for stealth. SEALs memorized satellite images of the enemy island base, known as Islas Sombras, a heavily fortified hub disguised as a fishing village. By June 18th, everything was ready. The order came directly from the Joint Chiefs of Staff: execute Iron Tide. At 22 o'clock hours, the fleet moved out. Waves crashed against the hulls. Engines hummed low. Inside the command deck of the USS Somerset, screens flickered with live drone feeds. The atmosphere was tense but calm. Marines cleaned their rifles. SEALs checked their oxygen gear and night vision goggles. The mission plan was divided into 3 phases. Phase 1: secure the sea. Destroy all cartel boats within a 20-mile radius. Phase 2: insert the ground team. Rescue the hostages and capture the cartel leader. Phase 3: exfil within 3 hours before the enemy regrouped. The last intelligence report before launch was chilling. Cartel wasn't just guarding the island. It had anti-aircraft guns hidden inside fake warehouses and radar jammers disguised as fishing nets. That meant the U.S. troops could lose communication at any moment. Still, morale remained high. The Marines had done this before in Somalia, Iraq, and Syria. But there was something different this time. They weren't facing a national army. They were up against men who followed no laws, showed no mercy, and killed without hesitation. At 2 a.m., the first drone spotted movement. Dozens of small boats left the island, heading directly toward the Navy's position. They were loaded with heavy machine guns and explosives. Cartel was coming for them first. The U.S. Navy destroyers went into battle posture. Radar locks engaged. Flares lit the horizon. Combat had begun before the first Marine even landed. On deck, Lieutenant Mason Grant watched the radar screen as the first cartel boat appeared. It moved fast, too fast for a normal vessel. He turned to his men and said, "They know we're here." By 3 a.m., more signals appeared. 20, 30, then 50 boats. It was an entire fleet. The Navy realized this wasn't just a defense response. It was a planned counterattack. Someone had leaked their coordinates. Still, the U.S. command held firm. SEAL teams prepared for insertion. Helicopters waited for the go signal. The Marines readied their weapons. In that silence, only one thought echoed through every soldier's mind: get the hostages out alive. Every detail of the mission had been rehearsed, but no one could predict what was about to happen in the next 3 hours. As the sky darkened and radar screens glowed green, the U.S. Navy entered the most intense battle ever fought against a cartel force. The world's most advanced military was about to face the deadliest criminal army on the planet, in a fight that would test every limit of technology, strategy, and human courage. The time was 3:12 a.m., and the first shots had just been fired. 3:12 a.m., the first missile streaked across the night sky. It hit a cartel speedboat dead center. Flames burst upward, lighting the black waves like molten glass. But there was no pause. Dozens more boats raced forward. The U.S. destroyers switched to automatic defense. Phalanx guns roared, spinning thousands of rounds per minute. The sound was like thunder tearing through metal. Radio chatter filled the air. Eagle Command, this is Hammer 1. Multiple bogies approaching fast. Copy. Hammer 1. Weapons free. Engage at will. The battle had begun. For the next 15 minutes, the sea turned chaotic. Cartel boats tried to surround the U.S. ships in tight formation, a tactic meant to confuse radar systems. But the Navy had trained for this. Each destroyer used thermal imaging to lock onto the engines of the incoming craft. Precision missiles picked them off one by one. Still, the cartel kept coming. Their boats carried heavy machine guns and rocket launchers stolen from old military stockpiles. Some even had improvised armor, steel plates welded to their sides. It was a sign of how organized this enemy had become. At 3:27 a.m., SEAL Team 6 launched from the Somerset's lower deck. Their small boats cut through the waves, heading for the island under cover of naval fire. Overhead, MQ-9 drones relayed every movement in real time. But the cartel had jamming systems. The feeds began to flicker. Then, for a moment, they went dark. On Isla Sombris, cartel soldiers were ready. They had night vision scopes, mines planted along the beach, and snipers hidden in watchtowers. When the first SEALs reached the shore, the silence broke into chaos. Bullets hissed through the darkness. The air filled with smoke and dust. Lieutenant Ryan Cole led the assault. His team moved in pairs, clearing each structure with precision. Inside the first building, they found crates of ammunition, satellite phones, and surveillance equipment. These weren't simple drug runners. This was a private army. Meanwhile, on the northern side of the island, the Marines landed under heavy fire. Explosions rocked the coastline as cartel mortars struck near the landing zone. Their vehicles' amphibious assault carriers rolled onto the beach, shielding troops from gunfire. By 3:45 a.m., both forces had established a perimeter. Communication with the Navy was spotty, but signals were still coming through. Drones identified the possible hostage location, an underground bunker near the center of the island. Time was running out. 3:58 a.m., a sudden blast rocked the southern ridge. The cartel had detonated fuel tanks to block the Marine advance. Thick smoke covered the battlefield. For 10 long minutes, visibility dropped to almost zero. The Navy shifted to infrared scanning, guiding ground units through the chaos. Then came the counterattack. The cartel deployed small quadcopter drones, modified with grenades. They flew low, fast, and silent. Marines had never seen this many in one fight. One squad lost communication as a drone exploded above them, destroying their antenna. Another squad reported heavy casualties. But the U.S. troops adapted quickly. Electronic warfare units jammed the drone frequencies, forcing many to crash. SEAL snipers took out the operators one by one. The tide began to turn again. At 4:20 a.m., Cole's team reached the bunker entrance. The door was reinforced steel. Thermite charges went in. The blast echoed across the island. Inside, the 3 American engineers lay tied and frightened, but alive. Within minutes, the SEALs cut their restraints and radioed the extraction signal. But then came the worst moment of the mission. El Viento, the cartel commander, was on site. He ordered his men to destroy the base rather than surrender. A chain of explosions ripped through the camp. The SEALs barely escaped as flames engulfed the compound. Outside, Marines dragged wounded men toward the beach as debris rained down. At 4:47 a.m., the Navy received the all-clear for extraction. Helicopters swooped in low under heavy fire. The hostages were lifted first. Marines covered the withdrawal, firing until the last chopper cleared the tree line. By 5:10 a.m., the U.S. ships began retreating from the combat zone. Behind them, Isla Sombra burned. The cartel's fleet lay shattered across the water. 3 hours after the first shot, silence returned to the Pacific. Smoke drifted over the waves. The sea, once roaring with war, was calm again. The mission was complete. But for the men who fought there, the sound of that night would echo forever. Gunfire in the dark, waves slapping against steel, and the voice on the radio that said, "Mission success. All units return home." Behind the chaos of those 3 hours stood layers of coordination, technology, and discipline that only the U.S. military could manage. Every move, from the first drone flight to the last helicopter lift, was planned with precision. What seemed like chaos on the surface was actually a chain of synchronized systems working together across air, sea, and land. At the center of Operation Iron Tide was Task Force Trident, a joint strike group built for rapid response. It was a mix of naval and marine assets designed to hit hard, move fast, and adapt under pressure. The USS Somerset served as the main command ship. It carried communication arrays, satellite uplinks, and a battle management system that allowed commanders to view the battlefield in real time. Supporting it were the USS Bunker Hill, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser armed with the Aegis combat system, and the USS Portland, an amphibious transport dock capable of launching both troops and vehicles. These ships acted as the operation's shield and spear, one providing defense against incoming threats, the other enabling fast deployment. Overhead, the MQ-9 Reaper drones played a key role. Each Reaper could stay airborne for over 20 hours and transmit live video back to the fleet. They carried Hellfire missiles, but were used primarily for intelligence. The drones tracked heat signatures, monitored enemy positions, and intercepted radio traffic. Early in the mission, the Reapers were the first to detect the cartel spouts and the first to confirm when those same boats went down. On the ground, SEAL Team 6 relied on compact and quiet weapons. Their HK-416 rifles were fitted with suppressors, allowing them to move without revealing position. Each operator carried night vision goggles and helmet-mounted thermal sensors. Inside the island, where visibility was poor, these systems made the difference between life and death. The Marines came equipped with lighter armor and fast-move tactics. Their vehicles, AAV-7 amphibious assault carriers, could roll off the ship, hit the beach, and carry 20 troops through shallow water. Each AAV had a .50 caliber machine gun for heavy fire support and a grenade launcher for short-range suppression. One of the most crucial tools was Link 16, a digital communication network that allowed ships, aircraft, and ground units to share real-time data. Through Link 16, a Marine on the ground could mark an enemy position and have a drone or ship confirm it within seconds. This closed the loop between sensors and shooters, giving the U.S. troops total battlefield awareness. Still, the cartel's jamming systems caused serious issues. Engineers aboard the USS Somerset used electronic countermeasures (ECM) to block interference. They sent false signals, tricking the cartel's systems into targeting empty ocean zones. This electronic duel went on throughout the battle. It was not just a fight of bullets and bombs, it was a war of frequencies. The Navy also deployed MH-60R Seahawk helicopters, each equipped with radar, torpedoes, and laser targeting pods. They scanned for hidden cartel submarines, small semi-submersible craft used to move drugs. 2 of them were found and destroyed during the mission. The Seahawks also performed combat search and rescue, pulling wounded Marines from the beach under heavy fire. While the world's attention often goes to the weapons, the real strength of the U.S. forces came from command coordination. Inside the Combat Information Center, officers managed hundreds of data feeds, weather reports, drone visuals, radar returns, and troop telemetry. Artificial intelligence systems flagged possible threats before human eyes even saw them. That allowed decisions to be made in seconds rather than minutes. Operation Iron Tide lasted 3 hours, but every second of it was guided by years of training and billions of dollars in defense infrastructure. The U.S. Navy's C-4 ISR system, command control, communications, computers, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, formed the backbone of the mission. Without it, the coordination between ships, aircraft, and ground troops would have been impossible. For many Marines, the mission was their first real combat experience outside of a declared war zone. Yet, they followed the plan with precision. They called in close air support from a V-8B Harrier jet stationed on the USS Portland. Each jet made strafing runs, clearing the way for ground forces to advance. These strikes were timed to the second, using laser guidance from drones above. When the SEALs reached the bunker, satellite positioning was off by a few meters, enough to throw off navigation. Using handheld GPS and drone feedback, they corrected course, breached the target, and secured the hostages. The extraction window was only 8 minutes. Any delay could have meant the loss of the entire team. The operation showed the U.S. military's strength not just in firepower, but in adaptability. The cartel had the advantage of surprise and terrain, but America had technology that could think, see, and act faster. By the time the last helicopter lifted off, over 75 cartel vessels were destroyed or disabled. Dozens of leaders were captured, and the island base was completely neutralized. The entire mission from launch to extraction took 2 hours and 58 minutes. 3 hours that demonstrated how modern warfare is no longer fought by numbers, but by precision, information, and coordination. 3 hours that reminded the world why the U.S. Navy remains unmatched at sea. By sunrise, the battle was over. Smoke still rose from Isla Sombras. The air smelled of salt, oil, and burning metal. For the men who fought there, the last few hours felt like a lifetime. But the mission was done. The hostages were safe, and the cartel's naval power had been wiped out. The official report later confirmed what the Navy already knew. Operation Irontide was one of the fastest and most effective joint missions ever carried out in the Pacific. In less than 3 hours, the U.S. military had destroyed an entire cartel fleet, secured an island, and captured several high-ranking commanders. The numbers told the story clearly. 75 enemy vessels destroyed, 180 cartel fighters confirmed dead, 53 captured alive, including 2 lieutenants of El Viento himself. On the U.S. side, there were 5 killed in action and 17 wounded. For a battle of that scale, it was considered a near miracle. The rescued engineers were flown to San Diego for medical checks. All 3 survived, though they were exhausted and dehydrated. In their debriefing, they revealed what the cartel had been planning. Las Sombras had built an illegal maritime network connecting the Pacific coast of Mexico to Asia. Hidden drug subs were meant to carry both narcotics and weapons. Among those weapons were stolen surface-to-air missiles, capable of downing civilian or military aircraft. The intelligence shocked Washington. What had looked like a hostage rescue turned out to be a preemptive strike that stopped a global threat. Within 48 hours, the president addressed the nation. His statement was short and calm, but powerful. America will always defend its people, will not allow criminal armies to challenge our sovereignty on land or sea. The Mexican government's reaction was complicated. Publicly, they thanked the U.S. for eliminating a criminal stronghold. Privately, officials worried about sovereignty violations. But behind the scenes, many admitted relief. The operation had taken down a group that their own forces had failed to contain for years. The international community, the event sent shockwaves. Analysts called it the first hybrid war between a nation-state military and a criminal army. Defense experts noted how cartels were no longer operating as gangs. They were organized, equipped, and trained like modern combat units. For the troops who returned, the mission's success carried a heavy cost. The images of that night stayed with them, the smell of gunpowder, the cries for medics, the flicker of flares over black waves. Military psychologists later reported signs of battle fatigue among several Marines and SEALs. 3 hours of continuous combat had left mental scars as deep as the physical ones. Still, the mission was a victory. The island of Isla Sombras was cleared, secured, and later turned over to Mexican authorities. Its underground tunnels revealed tons of weapons, explosives, and digital records, exposing cartel operations worldwide. The mission had ended, but its message was clear. If the world's deadliest cartel could be crushed in 3 hours, then no criminal empire was beyond reach. When the last helicopter left Isla Sombras, the sea fell silent again. The smoke faded into the horizon, and the ocean looked calm, as if nothing had happened. But for the men who fought there, the silence was heavy. It was the kind that follows chaos, the kind that makes every memory echo louder. 3 hours of combat had done more than destroy a cartel base. It had revealed what modern warfare has become: fast, invisible, and unpredictable. No declarations, no front lines, no warning. A single decision in a command room can send ships, drones, and soldiers into battle thousands of miles away. And by the time the world wakes up, it's already over. The story of Operation Iron Tide is more than a tale of victory. It's a glimpse into the new face of global conflict. The enemy wasn't a foreign nation or an organized military. It was a cartel, born from corruption, greed, and power. Yet, it operated with military precision, equipped with stolen weapons and digital warfare tools. It showed that the next wars may not start between countries, but between governments and the dark networks that challenge them. For the United States, the mission was proof of strength, a reminder that its reach extends across every ocean. But it also raised questions that military leaders could not ignore. How far should a nation go to protect its citizens abroad? What happens when enemies no longer wear uniforms or follow borders? What if next time, the line between military defense and police action becomes too blurred to see? Inside the Pentagon, analysts studied every frame of the mission footage. They called it a model of speed warfare, a type of operation designed to strike, adapt, and end before the enemy can react. 3 hours. That was all it took. But in those 3 hours, technology, courage, and precision worked together in perfect balance. Still, behind every headline and every report were the people, the Marines who dragged the wounded to safety, the SEALs who cleared dark rooms under fire, the medics who treated injuries with shaking hands. Their bravery didn't just save lives. It reminded the world that even in high-tech warfare, human courage is still the strongest weapon. Months later, the island remained quiet. The once bustling cartel port was now empty. The ocean washed over the broken remains of speedboats and bunkers. Nature was reclaiming what violence had taken. And yet deep within the shadows of the global black market, whispers began again.